Think about it. We plan our careers meticulously, we design business strategies, we even schedule our vacations down to the minute. But how often do we sit down and design our life? Too many people spend years investing in companies, trends, and relationships, but almost none in their own development. Yet your mind, your health, your skills, these are the only assets that never truly lose value. Your life is the most important project you will ever work on, not your career, not your business, not the relationships you build, as precious as they are, but you. And yet, it is the one project most people neglect the longest. We spend years mastering systems, chasing promotions, collecting possessions, and trying to meet expectations written by someone else's hand, all while ignoring the quiet, persistent truth that every dream, every success, every change we long for begins with the person we are becoming. When we speak of projects, we imagine plans and blueprints. We imagine deadlines and deliverables, goals to meet and milestones to tick off. But what if you treated your own growth that way? What if instead of just existing, you actually designed your life? Not by accident, but with the same seriousness you bring to any important work, because make no mistake, your life is work, and it will not take shape on its own. You are both the architect and the raw material. You are the foundation, the structure, and the builder. Every thought you nurture, every habit you practice, every choice you make adds another beam, another brick, another story to the building that is your life. It's not built overnight, nor should it be. True craftsmanship takes time, and becoming yourself fully, truthfully, fearlessly is the greatest craftsmanship of all. Most people, however, never give this project the attention it deserves. They build their lives outward, chasing titles, approval, comfort, but forget to build inward. And when the storms come, as they always do, those outer structures collapse because the foundation inside is shallow. It's easy to appear successful for a while. It's harder to be whole. Wholeness requires attention, patience, and honesty. It requires you to stop pretending you have everything under control and start asking yourself what kind of person you are actually becoming. We have been trained to believe that investing in ourselves is selfish, as if self-awareness somehow steals from others, but the opposite is true. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot build anyone else's dream from a broken foundation. When you strengthen yourself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you don't withdraw from the world. You expand your capacity to give to it. The most generous people are those who have taken the time to heal, to learn, to understand who they are. They are grounded enough to stand tall for others without losing their balance. It's a strange thing, but we are often more comfortable fixing everything outside of us than within us. We'll spend money on new clothes, new gadgets, new surroundings, hoping they'll make us feel different inside. But real change doesn't happen when your circumstances improve. It happens when you do. A new house won't quiet an unkind mind. A new relationship won't heal the wounds you refuse to look at. You can change your scenery endlessly, but until you face yourself, your fears, your habits, your patterns, the same challenges will keep finding you in new disguises. So begin where it matters most, with yourself. Make time each day, even a few quiet minutes, to listen to your own thoughts. Ask yourself hard questions. What do I want? What am I avoiding? What truly fulfills me? These questions are uncomfortable because they strip away excuses. They force you to see what you've been hiding behind busyness or fear. But discomfort is the price of clarity, and clarity is the foundation of growth. Imagine your life 5 years from now. Not the version you think others expect to see, but the one that feels right. The one that feels peaceful. What kind of person is living that life? How do they think, speak, move, choose? That image, that future self, is not unreachable. They are waiting for you on the other side of the habits you refuse to change and the fears you refuse to confront. Every small act of discipline, every uncomfortable decision to grow is a brick laid in that direction. Investing in yourself is not glamorous work. It rarely looks impressive to the outside world. No one applauds you for going to therapy, for reading books that challenge your thinking, for staying home to rest instead of pleasing everyone. No one sees the nights you choose to study instead of scroll, to journal instead of numb your mind, to reflect instead of react. But those unseen efforts build something solid: integrity, focus, peace. They create an inner wealth that cannot be stolen by failure or shaken by praise. There's a kind of quiet dignity in tending to your own growth. It's like learning to build a fire, slow at first, frustrating even, until suddenly the flame catches and everything begins to glow. The warmth doesn't come instantly. It comes because you stayed. You kept striking the match when it felt pointless. You believed that something invisible was worth your effort. That's what investing in yourself feels like at times. Invisible progress, but growth is happening beneath the surface even when you can't yet see it. You must also learn to forgive yourself along the way. Growth is not linear. It stumbles, circles back, pauses. There will be days when you slip into old patterns, when you lose sight of the person you're trying to become. Don't turn those moments into evidence of failure. They are reminders of how far you've come. You cannot demand perfection from a process that is meant to be human. The goal is not to become flawless, it's to become aware. Once you're aware, every setback becomes a lesson, not a life sentence. And remember, self-investment is not just about personal achievement. It's about alignment. When you grow, you begin to live in harmony with your values. Your choices start reflecting who you are, not who you think you should be. You stop chasing validation because your worth no longer depends on being seen. It depends on being true. That kind of authenticity can't be bought, copied, or faked. It's earned through the quiet work of building yourself piece by piece, decision by decision. If you treat your life as the project it is, you'll begin to see opportunities everywhere. Every book, every conversation, every challenge becomes raw material for your construction. Even failure becomes useful. A brick, misplaced perhaps, but still part of the wall. You'll stop fearing mistakes because you will understand that they are not final, they're formative. The best builders know how to repair and reimagine. The best lives are built the same way. At the end of it all, when the noise quiets and the world stops demanding so much of you, you'll look around and see the structure you've built. It won't be perfect, no great work ever is, but it will be yours. It will carry the marks of your courage, your mistakes, your perseverance, and in that moment you will realize something profoundly simple: that the most beautiful thing you ever created was not your career, your possessions, or your reputation. It was the person you became while building them. Because your life is not a race to be won or a prize to be displayed. It's a lifelong masterpiece in progress. And every choice you make, every lesson you learn, every step you take toward becoming more of yourself, that is the art, that is the work, that is the project worth everything. Distraction is the thief of potential. It creeps in quietly, wearing the disguise of comfort, entertainment, or productivity. It tells you that checking one more message won't hurt, that scrolling for a few minutes is harmless, that you'll start working on your dream tomorrow, but tomorrow becomes a week, then a month, and before you realize it, your greatest ambitions are gathering dust in the corners of your mind. Distraction doesn't destroy you all at once. It does it gently, with small interruptions that seem innocent until they have stolen entire years of your life. We live in an age where attention is the most valuable currency, and everyone is trying to spend yours. Companies, algorithms, advertisements, they all compete for your focus because they know that if they can control what you look at, they can shape what you think. And if they can shape what you think, they can direct how you live. The tragedy is that we've learned to surrender our attention willingly. We trade hours of potential for moments of meaningless stimulation. The glow of a screen has become both our comfort and our cage. You tell yourself you're multitasking, that you're keeping up with the world, that you're just staying informed. But deep down you know you've lost something vital, the ability to sit quietly with your thoughts, the ability to be bored and imaginative, the ability to focus so deeply on one thing that time disappears. We call it progress, but sometimes it feels more like erosion, the slow wearing away of our inner stillness. And yet, that stillness is where creativity is born, where clarity takes shape, where the mind begins to stretch beyond the noise. Without it, we are constantly reacting, never creating. The human mind was not designed to be fractured into 1,000 pieces of attention. Every time you switch from one task to another, you lose momentum. It takes time, sometimes minutes, to return to the level of focus you had before. Imagine trying to write a novel, paint a masterpiece, build a business, or simply understand yourself in that constant state of interruption. It's like trying to plant a garden while someone keeps digging up the soil. Nothing grows, nothing takes root. The truth is, distraction is not just stealing your time, it's stealing your becoming. It prevents you from discovering who you could be if only you stayed still long enough to listen to your own thoughts. Potential doesn't vanish overnight. It fades quietly when neglected. It slips away every time you choose easy over meaningful, every time you fill silence with noise, every time you avoid the work that matters because something trivial feels more urgent. You have more access to knowledge, opportunity, and tools than any generation before you. Yet, paradoxically, people are more restless, anxious, and unfulfilled than ever. It's not because they lack potential, it's because they've lost their ability to protect it. They mistake activity for progress, attention for connection, and busyness for purpose. The modern world praises those who are constantly on, always reachable, always responsive, always scrolling, but the truly exceptional ones, the ones who create, who lead, who transform, are the ones who have learned the art of being unreachable when it matters most. They guard their focus as though it were sacred, because it is. Think about the greatest minds, the inventors, the artists, the thinkers who shaped history. They all had one thing in common, the ability to sustain attention. They could dwell in deep work for hours, days, or years without needing validation or distraction. That is what allowed them to see patterns others missed, to solve problems others ignored. They didn't have more talent, they had more stillness. They built fortresses around their focus. It's tempting to believe that distraction is unavoidable, that it's simply a part of modern life, but that's not true. It's not the world's job to protect your attention. It's yours. You must choose deliberately what you let in and what you leave out. You must become ruthless about the things that steal your clarity but offer nothing in return. The small daily choices matter. The decision to check your phone the moment you wake up, the habit of keeping the TV on in the background, the endless browsing when you could be reading, thinking, creating. Each of these choices either feeds your potential or drains it. There's a strange discomfort in silence at first. It feels awkward, even lonely. The mind, so used to constant noise, doesn't know what to do with stillness. But if you stay with it long enough, something miraculous happens. The silence begins to speak. Ideas that were buried beneath clutter start to rise. Emotions you ignored begin to make sense. The fog begins to lift, and you start to see yourself. Not the curated version, not the performative one, but the real one. That is where transformation begins. We tell ourselves we're too busy to focus, but busyness is often a form of avoidance. It's easier to stay distracted than to confront the truth about where we are and what we want. Distraction offers temporary relief from discomfort, but it also ensures that discomfort never goes away. The difficult conversation you need to have, the project you've been avoiding, the dream you've been delaying, all of them sit quietly, waiting for you to look up from your screen. They will wait forever if you let them. The mind is like a muscle. It strengthens when challenged and weakens when neglected. Every time you resist the pull of distraction, you train your mind to focus longer, to think deeper, to imagine wider. It's not about willpower. It's about building endurance. At first, 5 minutes of undistracted work will feel unbearable. Then it becomes 10, then 30, then an hour. And somewhere along that journey, you'll rediscover the lost art of flow, the state where you are completely immersed in what you're doing, where the world disappears and only purpose remains. You might think that a few lost minutes here and there don't matter, but they add up. A Harvard study once found that the average person spends nearly 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're doing. Almost half of our lives spent elsewhere, in thought, in distraction, in noise. If you could reclaim even a fraction of that time, imagine what you could build, learn, create, or become. Your potential isn't hidden, it's simply scattered. And the act of focusing is how you gather it back. Every great change begins with attention. Whatever you feed your mind grows stronger. Feed it chaos and you'll live in confusion. Feed it purpose and you'll live in clarity. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. You cannot rise above the things that constantly interrupt you. If you want to become extraordinary, you must learn to do the ordinary act of focusing extraordinarily well. There's no magic formula. It's not about perfection. It's about intention. Start small. Turn off a notification. Spend 1 hour without noise. Give your full attention to one task. Then do it again tomorrow. Each moment of reclaimed focus is a quiet rebellion against a world built on distraction. It's an act of self-respect, of saying, my mind is mine. My time is mine. My potential is mine. Because in the end, distraction will steal whatever you allow it to. It will take your creativity, your relationships, your peace, your future. But if you learn to guard your focus, if you learn to sit still, to listen deeply, to be fully present, you'll discover something most people never do, that the greatest treasures of life aren't hidden in the noise, but in the silence you once feared. And it's there, in that stillness, that your potential waits patiently, ready to become something magnificent. The moment you finally give it your undivided attention. Growth requires discomfort. It's one of those truths that sounds simple until you have to live it. We all say we want to grow, to become wiser, braver, stronger, but when growth begins to demand its price, most people turn away. Because the truth is, becoming more than who you are right now is never painless. It's messy, it's uncertain, it asks you to step into spaces where you don't yet know the rules, and to keep going when you can't yet see the reward. Discomfort is not a punishment, it's a teacher. It shows up the moment you dare to step beyond the familiar. It's the ache in your muscles after a long climb, the trembling in your voice when you speak your truth, the quiet fear that whispers, what if I'm not enough? Every great transformation begins with that unease. Nothing new can take root in the soil of comfort, because comfort by nature wants things to stay exactly as they are. But life isn't built to stay still, it's built to evolve. And if you refuse the lessons of discomfort, you refuse the chance to become who you're meant to be. The people who achieve real, lasting growth are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who learn to stay in the room with failure long enough to understand it. They don't run from uncertainty. They don't let fear dictate their choices. They recognize that fear is only proof of possibility, evidence that something worth attempting lies on the other side. Growth doesn't happen when you feel safe. It happens when you risk falling and you do it anyway. Think back to the hardest seasons of your life. The heartbreaks, the losses, the disappointments that left you questioning everything. You didn't realize it then, but those were the moments that stretched you beyond your old limits. The person you are now was shaped by what you survived. You learned resilience, empathy, humility, lessons no amount of comfort could have taught you. Pain has a strange kind of wisdom. It strips away the illusions you build around yourself and shows you what truly matters. We spend so much of our lives avoiding that discomfort. We stay in jobs that don't fulfill us because we fear starting over. We remain silent when our hearts are screaming to speak because we fear rejection. We cling to routines that keep us small because they feel safe, but safety can become a prison. The walls you build to protect yourself can also trap you. Growth asks you to tear them down, brick by brick, even when your hands bleed in the process. Discomfort is where confidence is born. People often believe that confidence comes first, that you must feel ready before you begin, but readiness is a myth. The truth is, you build confidence only by stepping into the unknown and proving to yourself that you can survive it. Every challenge you face becomes evidence that you are capable of more than you thought. That's how self-belief is built. Not in theory, but through trial, through doing the difficult thing before you feel prepared. If you avoid discomfort, you also avoid the rewards that come with it. You can't experience the pride of accomplishment without the risk of failure. You can't know the joy of love without the vulnerability of heartbreak. You can't discover your purpose without confronting uncertainty. Discomfort and growth are two sides of the same coin. Inseparable. Inevitable. You don't get one without the other. Even nature understands this. The caterpillar must dissolve entirely before it becomes a butterfly. The seed must break open before it grows. The sky must darken before the dawn. There is no creation without destruction, no transformation without struggle. Why then do we expect our own evolution to be any different? Sometimes discomfort comes disguised as delay. You'll work hard and see no results for months, maybe years. You'll question your worth, wonder if you're wasting your time. But the unseen growth is often the most important kind. The strengthening of your character, the deepening of your patience, the refining of your purpose. You are being prepared even when you feel stuck. You are being shaped for something greater than the comfort you crave. When you begin to see discomfort not as an obstacle but as a signal, a sign that you are stretching into new territory, everything changes. You stop resisting the challenge and start welcoming it. You start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? That shift in perspective turns suffering into strength. It transforms fear into fuel. No one escapes discomfort. The difference between those who stagnate and those who evolve is how they respond to it. Some use it as an excuse to retreat. Others use it as a reason to rise. Growth will always ask for more than you think you can give. More patience, more courage, more faith. But if you give it willingly, it will return something far greater. It will give you the kind of self-respect that no success or praise can replace, the knowledge that you endured, that you kept going, that you became. So when the path feels steep, when the uncertainty feels unbearable, remind yourself, this is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're growing. The pain of change is temporary. The strength it leaves behind is permanent. And someday you'll look back and see that every difficult moment was not breaking you, it was building you. Surround yourself with growth, not approval. It sounds simple, almost poetic, but it may be one of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn. We live in a world that celebrates being liked more than being real. From the time we're children, we're taught to fit in, to smooth our edges, to blend, to make ourselves acceptable to the crowd. Approval becomes a kind of currency, and we spend our lives chasing it, forgetting that the price is often our authenticity. Yet every time you shape yourself to earn approval, you move a little further from who you truly are, and that distance, over time, becomes unbearable. The people you surround yourself with are the quiet architects of your future. They shape your thoughts, your standards, your vision of what's possible. You start to mirror their habits and beliefs without realizing it. Sit long enough among those who fear change, and you'll start to shrink your dreams to make them comfortable. Spend your days with those who gossip and you'll begin to see the world through a smaller, more cynical lens. But if you choose to surround yourself with people who challenge you, who push you toward your potential instead of your comfort, you will start to expand in ways you never thought possible. Growth rarely feels good at first. When someone challenges you, when they question your excuses, when they hold you accountable for the dreams you said you wanted, your first instinct will be to retreat, to defend yourself. But growth doesn't come from agreement. It comes from friction. It comes from having people in your life who refuse to let you settle for the smaller version of yourself. Approval feeds your ego. Growth feeds your evolution. The first makes you feel good for a moment. The second makes you strong for a lifetime. Think of the people who have truly shaped you. They weren't always comfortable to be around. They were the teachers who demanded more from you, the friends who told you the truth even when it hurt, the mentors who saw something in you that you hadn't yet recognized. They didn't hand you easy praise. They handed you mirrors. They forced you to see your potential and your excuses. Those are the people who belong in your circle, the ones who love you enough to tell you the truth and who believe in you enough to expect your best. There's a quiet danger in surrounding yourself only with approval. It feels safe, even warm, but it slowly dulls your ambition. Approval addicts you to validation. It teaches you to seek applause instead of progress. You begin to live not for purpose, but for praise. And that is a fragile existence. The moment people stop clapping, you stop believing you matter. But when you live for growth, your worth no longer depends on the opinions of others. You become anchored from within. You stop chasing acceptance and start creating meaning. Sometimes choosing growth means outgrowing people. It's a painful truth, but not everyone who starts the journey with you is meant to finish it. You will outgrow conversations that revolve around complaints. You will outgrow relationships built on convenience rather than connection. You will outgrow the need to prove yourself to those who never really saw you in the first place. It will hurt because love, loyalty, and familiarity can feel like chains when growth starts to pull you in a new direction. But staying small for the sake of comfort is a slow kind of death. And walking away, though it may feel lonely, is an act of faith. Faith that something greater is waiting on the other side of your courage. There's a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Whether or not that's literally true, it captures something essential. The people around you either stretch your mind or shrink it. They either spark curiosity or drain it. They either remind you of your purpose or distract you from it. So ask yourself, who are the voices in your daily life? Are they helping you rise, or are they quietly pulling you back to the ground? Surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not other people. People who see opportunity where others see obstacles. People who make you question, reflect, and reach higher. You don't need a crowd, you need a circle. Small, honest, and rooted in respect. True growth happens in the company of those who believe in accountability, not approval. They won't just tell you what you want to hear, they'll remind you who you said you wanted to become. And remember, growth is not only about what others give to you, it's also about what you bring into the room. Be the person who encourages, who listens, who challenges with kindness. Be the friend who celebrates progress, not perfection. Be the one who holds space for others to rise without envy. The kind of circle you attract will always reflect the kind of energy you give. Life will always tempt you with easy approval. The applause, the likes, the reassurance, they are seductive, but they are also temporary. Growth is quieter, slower, and infinitely more rewarding. It's the voice inside that says, you can do better, not because you're not enough, but because you are. It's the courage to keep evolving even when others want you to stay the same. In the end, you won't remember the ones who clapped for you when it was easy. You'll remember the ones who stood beside you when it was hard, the ones who saw your potential and refused to let you waste it. Those are the people who will help you become who you were always meant to be. Surround yourself with them and you'll never have to chase approval again. Your future demands action, not perfection. We spend so much of our lives waiting for the right time, the right job, the right relationship, the right level of confidence or certainty before we take the first step. We tell ourselves that once everything feels aligned, we'll begin. But that day never really comes, does it? The right moment is a mirage, always shimmering just beyond where you stand. Meanwhile, time moves quietly, and opportunities fade like footprints washed away by the tide. We live in a world that worships perfection. From our social media feeds to our professional lives, we're constantly surrounded by curated versions of reality. Flawless smiles, spotless achievements, seamless success stories. We've mistaken polish for progress and started believing that unless we can do something perfectly, we shouldn't do it at all. But that belief is the enemy of growth. The truth is, nobody ever reached greatness by waiting until they were flawless. Every masterpiece began as a mess. Every expert was once clumsy and unsure. Every success story you admire started with someone willing to act before they felt ready. There's a kind of magic that only happens when you move despite your doubts. Action, not perfection, is what changes your life. When you act, you create momentum. When you move, even imperfectly, you learn. You discover what works and what doesn't. You gain clarity, experience, resilience, things no amount of overthinking can give you. Perfection keeps you safe, but it also keeps you stuck. Action exposes you to failure, yes, but it also opens the door to transformation. Think of how many dreams have died in the name of perfection. The book unwritten because its author feared the first draft wouldn't be brilliant enough. The business never started because the plan wasn't perfect. The relationship never deepened because vulnerability felt too risky. Perfectionism disguises itself as a high standard, but really, it's fear wearing a clever costume. It whispers, wait until you're sure, when it truly means, stay where you are. It's not protecting you from failure, it's protecting you from growth. The people who change the world aren't the ones who always know what they're doing. They're the ones who are brave enough to start anyway. They make mistakes, fall, learn, and adjust. They don't wait for permission or flawless conditions. They build their courage one imperfect action at a time. Every step they take, no matter how small, becomes a brick in the foundation of their future. You see, the future doesn't ask for your perfection. It asks for your participation. It asks you to show up, messy, uncertain, afraid even, but to show up nonetheless, because the moment you do, something shifts. The fear that once felt enormous begins to shrink under the weight of action. The task that seemed impossible starts to take shape. You stop living in your head and start living in your life. And that is where change happens, not in the endless rehearsals of what could be, but in the imperfect courage of what is. I once knew someone who spent years planning a dream business. She researched every detail, crafted countless drafts of her proposal, imagined every outcome, but she never launched it. She was waiting to be certain, to have the perfect design, the perfect logo, the perfect plan. Years passed, and eventually someone else had the same idea and brought it to life. That person didn't do it perfectly. They made mistakes, stumbled, learned, and kept going, but they acted, and that action made all the difference. The future belongs to those who are willing to take imperfect steps toward it. The act of trying, even failing, teaches you more than any amount of waiting ever could. Progress is born from persistence, not perfection. You don't need to have every answer to begin. You just need enough courage to start. The path will unfold as you walk it. And here's the quiet truth that few talk about. Perfection is an illusion. Even those who appear flawless from a distance are editing their struggles behind the scenes. Life isn't a polished performance, it's a rough draft, written in real time. Every mistake, every stumble, every failure is not a setback, but a part of the story. You learn not by avoiding error, but by embracing it as proof that you are alive and trying. So, take the step you've been postponing. Write the first sentence, make the call, enroll in the class, launch the project, start before you're ready. You can refine later, but you can't reclaim time lost to hesitation. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your creativity, your willingness to try, to fail, and to rise again. Your future is waiting, but it won't wait forever. It doesn't require you to be perfect, only present, persistent, and brave enough to act. Because in the end, the ones who build extraordinary lives aren't the flawless ones. They're the ones who dared to begin before perfection arrived and found that action, not perfection, was the key all along. When you leave here today, I want you to remember this simple truth. Your dreams are not waiting for permission. Your future is not waiting for a perfect moment. It's waiting for you, the version of you who decides that your life deserves your full attention. Focus on yourself. Invest in yourself, because the return on that investment will echo through every corner of your existence. And one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't just build a life, you built yourself.